at a real high level, the one thing that I think we've been missing, from our entire strategy, we've got a great plan. We know exactly what best practices we're going to implement. We know how we're going to build a solid foundation and grow upon it. We know which keywords we want to introduce into our content marketing and into our actual services content strategy. So we've got a pretty good plan of action of how we know how we're going to grow search. This particular tool is going to give us some even better insights. Once we've loaded up all of our search terms and all of our geographies, and have our mobile desktop segmentation, we can actually run business cases to create forecast of what the opportunity looks like to give us some specific goals that we can establish, so that when we look at where are we going for the rest of the year in 2015, based on a normal click-through curve that Conductor is able to put together for us, we're able to actually come up with a realistic forecast of what potential untapped opportunity there is related to keyword rankings. So this one screenshot that you see on my screen is one that we ran a business case on for an e-com site specializing in bicycle parts. And from this, we were able to convince their CMS vendor to implement some specific changes that are going to mean the world to their ability to start getting better placement. So I wanted to sort of start there, as at a high level, we can actually come up with some metrics and build business case, to show to the whole team, here's what we have in front of us that we could be earning by the end of the year. Pretty cool, right? So it's
Gotcha.
modeled, but it is based on pretty awesome data. There's like 16 different curves, as I recall. So starting at the beginning, one of the first things that we like to look at is our content. So in this example, I'm using Skechers. So you didn't see any of this, right? But I'm using Skechers as the example, and since we're talking local, I figured I would do a filter and just look at some specific local data and look at some specific locations. So I have both city and I've got location on here, so that you can see the difference, and then we can see how it's trending and performing. We can run those filters and even create specific categories based on DMA, based on Seattle, based on anything anything that our brains can come up with as a way to group our landing pages and our keywords. We've got a way to do that. And then of course we can sort, filter, and organize based on change. So we can say, for example, as I get into it, what do we need to focus this week? But looking at the content level now, we can drill down into the individual landing page and look for specific opportunities to improve. So here's another example where we're categorizing. In this case, girls might represent oil change. So as we think about, hey, as oil change is a category of service that we offer, how well are we performing against the competition? And how well are we improving in our visibility for this particular category? What we're doing with Meineke Skechers is going through a rebuild, so we haven't been able to touch the site. It's been on lockdown for 90 days. But you can see in this example, we can see sessions, transactions, and revenue. All of this happens through the Conductor interface, and we can trend over time. The only caveat to that is that the time starts the moment we set everything up. We can have everything set up within a few days, and by Monday already have data that we can look at. We can create some custom dashboards too, workspaces, what they call them, where we can actually put in some of the historical data right at the top to compare against. So if we want to look at specific past data, trend data from 2011, 2012, 2013, etc., we can put all of that right at the top as something to compare up against. So if we wanted to look at year over year, we can have that data in front of us and be able to still compare up. So again, this is just an example where we're doing the segmentation by service category and are able to trend the same way we are in a monthly reporting. Continuing down segmentation, in this example, I'm showing revenue. For us, it would be appointments. But I'm able to drill down by content segmentation. So in our case, we're going to have oil change, muffler exhaust. We're going to have tires. We're going to be able to create those content segments. We're also going to be able to start managing in a much more efficient way our content marketing efforts. Right now, we're putting up a ton of amazing pages that are keyword optimized to attract links. But outside of Google Analytics, we don't have a way to track how that content is performing in terms of rank, keywords that are driving traffic to the site, links, and other metrics that can't be scaled once you get beyond 30, 40 pieces of content using an Excel spreadsheet. So this gives us a better way to segment and track our content by whatever category we happen to come up with. So in this content segmentation, we're looking at the breakdown of categories, and you can see that girls hasn't moved. Men's related search terms and men's products have moved up 4 positions overall, and women's moved up 5 positions. And then just again looking at revenue, we can also track revenue and see how revenue is performing across those particular segments. The other thing that we haven't done a really good job of, I think, as a consolidated team is the breakout of specific positions. I know our monthly reports, the keyword rank reports that you have access to, have a limit of 500, of the potential 673 cities that we could be tracking. And in this example, you can see exactly where the low-hanging fruit is, where our striking distance search terms are, as well as some of the keywords that are just coming up to the second and third page. So we can look at those opportunities, drill down, make some content enhancements, and hopefully see more dark green hyperlocal in the top 1 to 3 positions of search than what we have, just below that, which to me is probably the easiest, fastest way to earn, better placement, is to find out what those search terms are, apply them to our copy strategy, and grow. So here's an example where I did a segmentation of this exact same thing by the men's category. So I used the men's, which we'll say instead of oil change, men's for us is tires. We look at tires. Now I can see by including display unranked as part of this, I can actually see where we're really weak in content, where we're not showing up at all, so that we can start focusing a little bit more on search terms that are important to us, that we're tracking, but we're not getting any placement on. And I can see those and drill into them, update the categories and subpages, respectively, and hopefully move that 13%, into the top 3 pages. Looking again at category market share. So this is similar to what you saw in Bright Edge last year, but this one's a little bit different in that we're tracking our specific competitors, but we're also tracking eye competition, those guys that show up in the search results that aren't part of our preferred competitors to track. So we can see what our local search volume is, what the potential is by category. We can see where we stand, and we can trend that over time. Not similar to the trend charts that we have, only we're not using competitive metrics. In this case, we can actually compare up Jiffy Lube and other competitors in oil change or specific industries where we haven't really segmented those well, competitively, the way that Conductor will allow us to do so. So we can see if a competitor is suddenly starting to trend, for a particular category, and then we can reverse engineer what they're up to and hopefully steal away some of that market share. Likewise, we can see our trending over time for particular categories, which we're already seeing, but now we can break it down and show it off a little bit more. Looking at visibility performance, this is one of the things that I like the most. Since this report runs weekly, as a search engine practitioner myself, being able to look at week over week change, I can take, for example, what was 2 weeks ago on page 1 and see what's not on page 1 this week and make that a priority for Monday morning. Monday morning, I get up, I look at my report. Oh crap, we lost some placement on 3 specific search terms. Where there's reasonable amount of volume, for us to get some better placement on. So I can take action into those specific pages, give emphasis to them in a subheading or within the content, link to those pages from a blog post, do a featured post about a particular topic, and link in to the page that my preferred landing page, and try to move that right back up where it should have been. But being able to see that and respond to it and react in real time is something that no other tool currently offers. The other thing, as you can see at the top, is we now, it's a new feature they just deployed last week. We now have the ability to actually target by region. So if we want to set up specific areas or DMAs, we can do that here. However, we also have the ability now to create geo-modified keywords, similar to how we did with our local dash. So essentially, it means somewhere close to 8,000 keywords, 900, or so locations times the 13 keywords we were tracking, comes up to nearly 9,000 different keywords. We have a very simple, easy way to do that now using visibility performance and looking at specific keywords. I can filter a specific city as a modifier and see all of the respective keywords, or put them into a smart category, using that city as the modifier, and I can see how that particular category is performing against the local competition for those search terms. Granularity that there's, again, no other tool that will show us that. So when Seattle says, how am I performing, I can simply put in Seattle as a filter, run a category on that, look at the category market share, and see exactly where we stand against the local competition in Seattle, even though I know that's not going to be our problem long term. It sounds like they're going away. Keyword comparison. So here's something also extremely interesting that we can do. We can drill into specific keyword analytics where competitors are appearing in positions that we're not. In this example, it's showing Skechers compared to Nordstrom, Nike, Converse, Zappos. Nordstrom and Zappos actually aren't track competitors, but they show up anyway because they are the eye competition. And if we wanted to, we could add them as competitors to track, but in this case, they're just not interested in doing that. But I want to know. I want to know what's making them appear. I want to know when I drill into a keyword what I could be doing better. So when I drill into a keyword, say men's industrial shoes, which is probably a bad example because I already got this page to rank #1. But if it weren't, that was me just bragging there for a minute. But if it weren't, what I can do is I can drill into the specific landing page for the top 3 results: Skechers, Keen, Amazon, and Zappos, and I can look at common SEO focal points like titles, meta descriptions, body text. I can look at title length, several other on-page and off-page fields. I didn't screenshot it, but there's several other on-page fields or off-page fields that I could look at, such as social metrics, inbound links, and other attributes that tell me what the competition is doing to get their specific competing page to outrank us. And of course, when you click the code button, you can actually see in real time there what the title attribute is or what the code is. So when you say, hey, why are we not performing well for best tire service, right? I can drill into our corresponding page. I can look at the competing corresponding pages, and I can look at frequencies of what Google seems to favor, and then we can make modifications to improve that. And we'll probably find some good link and social opportunities in that process, since this drills down to the individual landing page that corresponds to the individual keyword category. And in this case, it's men's industrial shoes. Continuing down that path, as I drill into issues, Conductor is going to tell me what specific search terms I can add as expansion opportunities that I'm not currently tracking. In this case, industrial shoes is semantic to men's work sneakers, and men's work sneakers isn't something that we have listed or mentioned on the page, but is a keyword opportunity that could drive additional search traffic. So I simply click add this keyword as something I'm tracking, and then I can look at what the competition's doing and modify my content accordingly. So this gives me a wider girth of search terms that I can be targeting instead of just being over obsessed over one specific keyword, men's work shoes as an example. And so here's where it gets exciting again, going back into what are we going to do next Monday? Well, next Monday I'm going to log in. I'm going to look at specific categories that aren't performing well. In this case, I'm going to look at all women's shoes because as a category, I feel like we've, from the data, it looks like we're going down 4 to 5% in what our market share is in women's related keywords. So I'm going to use all URLs that contain the word women. I'm going to sort by search volume to see where the search volume potential is. I might even sort again by impact to see what sort of value it could have to our SEO campaign. And then I'm going to click add task and start delegating that task to somebody on the team, maybe even me. I might jump in there and modify the keyword or modify the title that's on the page that corresponds to those search terms, with the priority date. Again, looking at what the effort level is and then what it corresponds to so that we can segment by groups. So content, for example, we might put into our content teams group to mess with, and links might go into the social team over there. but we can segment it by SEO discipline when we assign that task with a specific due date. And then the last little slide I kind of threw together is, again, additional research. We're not on an ongoing basis looking for new keyword opportunities as proactively as this software allows us to. We are looking at, when we have it, keyword query data, and when we have it, Google Analytics, which is filtering out everything and not provided. So in this case, by looking at the competition and what keywords they're absorbing, I can choose all non-managed keywords that aren't included in keywords I'm tracking, against Nike and Converse, and maybe even some other brands. I'm going to look at those keywords that are on page 1 and 2. So I know that they're obviously low-hanging fruit for us, and then I'm going to find some new keyword opportunities in that research. In this case, Skechers has an opportunity to get track cleats, girls running shoes, and boys basketball shoes. 3 keywords of products they sell and offer, but aren't currently in their list of tracked search terms. All 3 of which have significant search volume attached to them: 1,900, 1,300, and 5,400 searches per month. So great way as a weekly cadence to identify new opportunities, add them to the campaign, and continue to grow the girth of keywords that we're tracking against. So that's sort of my last slide that I wanted to, not really even a slide, but last sort of screenshot of why this has been such a win for us. Every account that we've applied this to has already seen increases in the activity that goes on with the ongoing day-to-day SEO, as well as performance improvements with regards to revenue and overall rank. So we think this is a win. There's nothing additional that you have to spend for this. This is something as a business, and having multiple franchises now that we're working with, that we believe will give us the data that we want. The other screenshot I didn't show you was custom workspaces or dashboards. Once we get the account provision and set up, we can create a custom workspace to get every single piece of trend data that we want to get to show on a custom workspace for you. In fact, there's even templates to make it easy, so we don't have to manually drag widgets into it. We can start with a template and optimize based on what you'd like to see in a monthly report, and schedule that monthly report to automatically go to you and to us, or to anyone else who you'd like to schedule it to. Then they don't have to have an account, so you can just simply add an email. Hey, I'd like to set up the new guys with an email, but they don't need access to Conductor. So boom, you add them to the scheduled email, and every month they get the monthly report exactly how you had it set up in your workspace. So anyway, I sound like I should work for Conductor, but we're in love with it. It's been working great. It's not a cheap solution, but it's something that we can deploy in less than a day and have data to look at by next Monday or Tuesday. So if this is something that you feel comfortable with, that you can feel proud of, Google Analytics, ranking, categorization, content tracking, and at the end of the day, trend. I think hopefully you'll find this as amazing as us.
Matt, just a quick side note here is that the cost on this thing is super heavy. So we should make sure that it is the right tool before committing to it. So if there's anything else that we can provide right now, the commitment is long term. We can't play with it for 2 months and say this is not it.
Right. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Thanks, Steve, for walking through that as well.
Sure.
Yeah, some of my feedback definitely takes me back to my days with Bright Edge. I think there's a lot of overlapping functionality, so it's something that I have familiarity with. Even though some of the features are different in Conductor, it looks like, but in terms of comparison with competitors, grouping, and things like that, makes a lot of sense. I think for us, it's definitely something I want to discuss with Summer and with the team. I want to better understand what the Yodel Dash will solve for us on the local level and where the gaps are in terms of the enterprise level, because really when it comes to this, there's a local aspect to it, but the clear benefits for me are the enterprise content, blog content, services content. Those are probably the lowest hanging fruit in my eyes. And then in addition to that, helping us pinpoint what cities or locations are not doing as well, but knowing that that's not quite as scalable as what we talked through here. And then I guess the last, I think that's the main thing though, is understanding what the Yodel Dash will and will not solve for us, and that's on the Meineke end. I think we have a pretty good idea, but want to make sure, to Bauman's point, that this is filling a big enough gap in our information and analysis that will justify the cost. But I understand and definitely recognize the benefit that a tool like this can have. So that's sort of my candid feedback, and I'm going to make it. I've already made some notes to discuss with Summer on Thursday, and we'll want to regroup with the Yodel team as well to say, all right, show me all the nitty gritty of the platform. I've been in there and poked around, but want to make sure that I have a 100% understanding of what we're getting out of that as well.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Especially the categorizing and segmenting of content groups. And as you mentioned, locations. We also have the segmentation ability for mobile and desktop, so we can actually see how well we're performing in mobile and desktop at a specific location level or in a specific category, as you see that I highlighted down here. So we can run those and save them and put them on our workspaces. After we've decided what we really like to look at and where we see the most benefit, we can add those to our workspace and have that as something that we bookmark and live and breathe in as part of our ongoing SEO efforts. So the other thing is, because I kind of knew that you want to talk to Summer, I took the liberty of recording the go-to for you. So if you wanted to give it to her and kind of show her my spiel on it and why we think this is a great tool for us as a agency, hopefully she'll see the value as well. As we mentioned, there is a cost on our end. We're pretty committed to it, and we've got some other great franchises we work with that love it. But at the end of the day, this it's got to work for everybody, and hopefully you'll love it. And there's no extra cost on your end.
Gotcha. In terms of the franchise, okay.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Bauman.
No. Keep going.
One question I had in terms of the application for franchises, you mentioned that some of the franchise businesses are benefiting well from it. I guess how do you see this fitting best into a localized strategy, maybe at the city or at the center level, to really take insights and act upon them at that level of detail?
Sure. Well, even on the screen that I'm on right now, having this advanced filter, using our preferred URLs and being able to, since we're going to track every single URL, we can actually create a filter for Seattle or oil change or both. We can use negative words as well, so we can say minus, for example, a specific location in a city if we wanted to. As long as it exists in the URL, we can create filters and segment and see how well we're performing and create a category from that segment that we can measure up against